All right. Perfect. Um, thank. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Uh, this is the this is the last but not least. Um, that is in final presentation set towards the Noire Expose 2024. This is actually part of the webinar series. We have been providing information over the past couple of days, 3 days, from branding and AI to actually grant funding and total addressable market and AI. And of course, yesterday we delved a lot that is into the sales automation side of things and got to demo a few things. Today, or what we're hoping is that the information that has been sent over the past couple of days are all things that you guys can reference, or anyone who is looking at this can reference. That is as part of application week, which is going to be kicking off next week. We'll have some updates on the website. We'll have some updates, and then I should provide some more information. Of course, the reason for all these webinars have have mostly been to form a vehicle that actually functions as a stickiness factor after the fact, where there is ongoing support, and this will be better explained here. However, this is also to make sure that when it comes to application week, that there is a lot of content and resources that you can reference to make sure that you have as much context as possible with respect to the way that the application is actually going to be structured. So a whole lot of that is actually going to be coming on. But does anyone have any quick thoughts, that is, or comments about everything so far before I begin? The webinar, the conversation
I,
so far.
yeah, I have a question. I see that there was two meetings, two webinars, one at 4. Is that correct? From 4 to
When
4:30.
today?
Yeah, I seen something on the calendar. It said 4 to 4:30. Is that a mess? That's not
Okay,
correct.
I would actually just go verify, but that should not be correct. Let me
Okay,
verify.
maybe
I
something.
don't. Okay, I would actually go
It's not
verify
on
right
my
now.
calendar, Chips.
Is there anything on your calendar?
No, it's not on my calendar.
Okay, yeah, I don't see
Okay, it
anything
might.
that is on the master calendar here.
Okay, it
To
might be so. It might be like the time zone thing.
okay,
It's
okay,
probably saying something about the time zone. Okay,
okay, okay, no issue
thanks.
at all. Okay, no issue at all. So to actually begin, I would actually share my screen. Can you guys see my screen before I begin
Yeah, you
presenting?
have a lot of stuff on it, Chips. We can't just, can you
Yes.
just show us the presentation part?
So can
There
you
you
guys see it? Oh, perfect. Sorry, I actually couldn't hear you for a bit. But can you guys see my screen? If you guys give me a verbal yes, because I can't see you right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
perfect, perfect. So within our expose pitch awards, this is what it all boils down to, right? What is the work needed to be able to get this done? What I would like to do is explain what Noire Expose is, again, and then give an understanding as to what happens on the back end. So about Noire Expose, this is actually focused to elevate Black-owned businesses in Connecticut. The goal is to focus on technological empowerment, of course, community engagement, uh, and this is mostly from making a business more resilient technologically, right? And there are some other things that we're going to actually mention there. The key components are the pitch awards competition, like we did last year. We have another thing happening this year. Of course, the AI and entrepreneurship web series, and you know, this is also that is a part of the business clinics, which is the ongoing engagement. Of course, all these webinars are examples of what that actually what that would look like. Um, so I think that I would like to say something here before I go to the next slide. A very key part of what we are doing here is actually teaching you ways to use artificial intelligence to be able to have a technically resilient business, not necessarily looking at things that are actually technology forward, but actually having a technically resilient business. So what does that look like, right? That actually looks like using a set of automation tools to be able to actually put together that is internal business processes that actually make it much easier to be able to do a few things, or to be able to make the execution of business much easier, right? However, we also want to be able to make ourselves, this is actually Noire Expose in this case, technically resilient in our operations. And how do we do that? When it comes to analyzing the people who actually come in, we have a particular criteria, and also a set of things that we are doing to be able to actually take as much bias away from ourselves. We are going to be using we are going to be using artificial intelligence that is actually specifically fine tuned to a concept, to a perspective, to be able to help pick the top 10. That is actually the top 10 applications. So what is the perspective of that? That is of that model. It is able to take the perspective of the state of Connecticut when it comes to certain pathways of investment that it's already making. Um, the reason why we do this is that although we are ambassadors, that is of technical resilience, by actually being able to adopt automation at scale, right, or actually within your business operations. Um, uh, we want to make sure that those that we select for are also people who are able to pivot into other areas of business funding, or you know actually business funding from a public perspective. So actually, just to summarize, the thought process is that if we create an AI model that actually takes into consideration the pathways of investment that the state is actually making, by the time that we select people as a function of this model, and it's not to say that human judgment is not going to be placed into it, it will be able to select for those who are more likely to be able to pivot into multiple areas of funding that the government has. So it's not just technical resiliency, it is also business resiliency by making sure that people are aligned to monetary pathways that exist, right? That's a very key part of how this analysis is taking place. And of course, by actually using artificial intelligence to help us, we're able to be much more fine-tuned and then take the bias away from ourselves, right? Or actually just have some, have some sort of a code-defined means of execution. Before I actually move on to the next slide, I think that that was a pretty important piece of information, and I would like to know if anyone has any thoughts, questions, concepts, comments in general before I move forward. Does that give you clarity? Do you have any feedback? And I can't hear you if you guys are saying anything because I can't see you. So hello.
I think I got it.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Um, okay. So actually, with that being said, the date is going to be on a Saturday, June 8th, 2024. We will be providing some more information. We have a few things to actually finalize. Platform is to showcase the various innovative business models that were chosen. Of course, application week is going to be open next week. And by the end of next week, we will close out that is Pitch Awards competition application. And our goal is that by Wednesday the following week, we should be able to let the final 10 know know if they've won, because that gives them a week and a half to actually prepare, right? And then we would give further information, further feedback. Those who won last year or who were in the top 10 have an understanding of what that process looks like. um, Audience potential, investors, partners, and industry experts. One thing actually which I want to say before I move forward, so actually that people, haven't have a good and transparent understanding, that is, of how we are doing this. Where the human side of this comes in when it comes to providing judgments could be if we have someone who was in the top 10 last year that actually somehow makes it to be number 9, right? Or actually number 10. Like anything below 8, or from 8s, that is actually from 8s and down, meaning they're in the top 10, but they're in the bottom 8, 9, 10, right? It is in our best interest to actually say, hey, is there actually someone, let's say that there's a number 11, 12, 13, who had not won last year? Is it actually possible to give them a chance? Those are places in which we can make and use our best judgment to be able to make a change, right? However, if someone who applied last year is say above 8, right, like 7, 6, 5, you cannot discount how much how much of a difference they've had, right? And so they get to come back again and actually just do the same thing again. So that is just to give you guys an understanding of what the process looks like, actually, at least internally. But I just wanted to make that point. Um, so I would actually just step into this briefly. Eligibility and application criteria. Black-owned or controlled business registered in Connecticut. People will be asked to provide their Connecticut registration number to verify. And there is a minimum word count, right? Unlike what we had last year. So you guys are going to have to put in some more nuance, but you have enough tools, you have enough resources, of course, using artificial intelligence to be able to give something super focused that makes sense. That is and then goes on to the next step. Tech enhanced business models. We would ask you to explain how you plan to use technology. Of course, we have a template for all these things that everyone can reference, right? And probably creates that is a specialized GPT that actually makes it easier for you guys to be able to put together your application, right? Or at least give you some ideas. You would also need to describe a detailed use of funds. Sorry, give me a second. You would also need to describe a detailed use of funds for that is for 15,000, 25,000, and $35,000 because these are the various steps. So first,
Mhm.
second, and third, um, that will be given. So you will need to have a game plan for 15,000, for 25,000, and for 35,000. You would also be provided with templates that could actually provide you with some more nuance. So someone was going to say something. Uh, Please go ahead,
Yeah, I was
James
going
and
to
then
make a
Burnett.
comment in looking at the people who were in the top 10 last year. I thought that the weakest part of the presentations were their financial projections. They
Okay.
really didn't lay them out as well as I thought that they should, to be able to document or at least to project where they want to go. So I was thinking from our standpoint, we want to make certain that in presenting the application, let them know that their 3 year projections, at least saying the 3 year financial projections, are critical, if you will, to the awarding, if you will. So you will feel more comfortable about where the money is going.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. And yes, we would annotate and then make sure that we add that to that. Please go ahead, Burnett. Thank you very much, James.
And
Jim.
to pivot off of that, what you just said, is there a qualification or where you're supposed to put the money? Where you supposed to put the money at? Is there qualifications for that? Where the money's being
Um,
spent at?
uh,
Like,
those are the user funds. The user
yeah,
Mhm.
funds
the
you would
user
have to
funds.
define. Yeah, you would have a template for that, just to give you an example. But also,
Mhm,
just like Jim mentioned, we would like to see a further projection as well. There is going to be a very specific ask per the
mhm,
application, but also those who are able to provide projections have a greater chance, that is of being here. So if you don't provide certain things, it makes it easier to actually decide. Okay, if they didn't have this and this person had this, then it makes sense to actually take this person over them. So it's about getting the right information from you. So
mhm.
yes.
Well, what I'm saying is there a um like a where like if there's a qualifications where you need to put the funds, like where you need to allocate the funds, like if you don't want us to spend it on this or that, like where do you want us to spend the funds at? Where would you want us to spend the funds at? That's what I'm
So
saying. Like if you don't want to spend it on rent or something like that, you don't want it to go to rent.
yeah.
You rather go to something else. Like where you want the funds to be allocated to.
So okay. So I think that part of the beauty of this is that there are some things that are actually open ended,
Okay.
because we want to see the various perspectives that actually people take, right? Um, so that way we are not necessarily given the answer ahead of time, if you will. It just makes it easy for actually people to come up with. It just makes it easy for people to actually come up with something that makes sense, right? But what we would like to do is actually provide you with a guide on that is on what is a that is a viable enough, right, places to actually allocate the funds to. So we will give you an example of what to do, but not necessarily an example of what not to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. So and welcome, Rochelle. But I would actually go to the next side of all this. All right. Please let me know if you guys can still see my screen as I move forward.
Yep.
Okay. So the application process overview, attend the preparatory webinars or review the resource page. For those who didn't attend all the webinars, of course, you guys have been getting, actually getting all the links. Of course, before application, they will be able to we would able to provide all this on YouTube. And when you go to the resource page, you'll be able to see everything from the articles we have all the way to the YouTube videos that we have for you guys to have a good understanding. That is of what's needed, right? You also will have some of the AI tools that we've been able to provide freely and externally to be able to do your application, right? So please remember that this is not going to be an easy application. It is made to be that way because we're not necessarily creating some sort of an accelerator or asking you to join an accelerator prior to you doing something. We believe that everyone has gone through the accelerator of life. So in order to make it fair, we must make the application process relatively difficult. That is why it has to be in depth, as well as also making sure that prior to getting the final or the highest amount award, one is able to go through the pitch as well. So it's about making things at the onset difficult because we don't want to drag people along before we give them money at a later time, right? Um, so step two is to submit the application with the business overview and use of funds. Of course, we have a more detailed application criteria that is going to be coming up, and we would give you a template for you to actually reference, right? Last but not least, step three, for those who were actually selected, of course, I did mention for Rochelle who was just coming in, I did mention that that application week will be open all of next week, right? And we would actually send out a few emails telling people to apply. However, Wednesday, the week afterwards, is going to be when the application day will have ended by the end of next week. But Wednesday, the week afterwards, that is when we should be telling the top 10 applicants that they've been able to go on to the next step. And so at that point, prepping for the pitch day, you have a week and a half, or whoever it is will have a week and a half to prep, right? Um, so the AI on entrepreneurship web series. So we actually provided a series of webinars to prepare applicants. All these presentations that you guys have seen, you'd be able to get, right? All prior to application day or top of Monday, right? These are the topics that we covered. And there were a few practical insights and actionable strategies. Of course, we provide external GPTs or general purpose tools or AI tools to be able to help you walk through things from your own business perspective. They're in the emails that we've been sending. Those top two links with the icon, based on the email that was sent perhaps an hour ago. So this is to give you a good understanding of how to think through things before you apply, right? That was the purpose of having the series. Um, so what makes a winning pitch, right? We have a few of the winning pitches from last year. All these are on YouTube. Sherry Griffith and Mercy Pediatrics. They were number one and number two. And so it would be good for you guys to really study what they had, see what the judges had mentioned, to be able to have a good understanding of that is of what you would need to do. But prior to all that, you would need to have a clear problem definition. You will have to have an innovative solution with technological integration business wise, not innovative solution that is actually technically driven, meaning maybe like a technology solution, like a technology forward solution. Our ethos here is solely looking at embedding technology into your operations, right? So really speaking about that and talking about that is going to be very important, right? Market understanding and financial viability. Of course, we actually talked about knowing your audience, having a good understanding of the total addressable market, understanding that how you calculate what your total market is price that people are willing to pay on average times how many people, essentially people times price, sorry. The number of people that could actually potentially buy your product times the average price that they are willing to pay for that product, right? Or range of products. You could have a range of prices. Strategic partnerships and growth projections, have a more expansive understanding on who are the ecosystem people that you might need to partner with to make yourself grow, right? The more detail you provide, the more nuance you provide, it helps. And these are all the best practices that you could see that is in last year's pitches, right? This actually gives confidence from a judge perspective to be able to say, hey, this person should be awarded this, right? So I could actually talk about I mean, I'll be able to talk about this, but I want to quickly open it up for that is actually for questions before I move forward. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments, feedback before I move forward? Three, two, one. Guessing not. Um, but if you have any questions, please, if you just raise your hand, then I could hear it. So to break down financial projections and use of funds, right? Just like Jim had mentioned, um, having a 3-year financial projection is also going to be asked for. Now, now, um, that might be optional, but if you don't have it, it could actually count against you, right? So it's about providing your best foot forward, right? Provide those which are optional and those which are not optional, right? The breakdown of fund allocation, of course, at 15,000, 25,000, and $35,000 is, hey, if I got $15,000, this is how I would allocate the funds. Or if I
Mhm.
got $25,000, this is how I would allocate the funds. Or if I have $35,000, this is how I would allocate the funds. Right. Example categories are technical upgrades, right? We are talking about technical resilience. We talked about marketing and branding. There's also staffing, hiring people. There's just the operational costs, even from a sales perspective. And research and development, right? You always have to see ways to improve your business. And if the improvement is actually going to be something that is of value to you, this is what you would need to do and understand, right? Again, we have enough resources for you guys to see those who won last year, and a whole lot more resources and all the webinars that we provided, and even some of the AI tools that we've provided free of charge, at least for a time, to you guys. And some more will be coming around that. Um, so marketing and distribution plan. These are also key things that you need to add there. Your target audience, your key marketing channels. I know that we talked about that during the first webinar. Where are you posting and when? Right? And who are you posting to? Is it a is it a B2B business? Because you would need to know where you are posting and when. It is really about the timing of when you say things. You guys have seen how we've been very, very communicative and how we've actually built this out. I think that the automation is relatively on point, from actually AI intake to actually the automated thing after the fact, right? It has been relatively straightforward. So those are the things that actually make it easy for that is for people to generate a lot of attention and value. And I believe like we are showing. So I think that we're leading by example there. Campaign strategies and budget allocation, very key. There is the allocation, there is a high level allocation, and then there is a subsection allocation, right? The more detail you provide, the better, right? Expected outcomes and that is and success metrics, right? We have some things that we have aligned or we have actually stated for you guys to be able to reference, as an example of a success metric that we would like for you to give a viable reason and rationale for how you will achieve, right? Uh, but you can also define yours as well, and that also tells judges that you have thought about what you are to actually send out. Post competition support, just like we mentioned, the Noire Expose Business Clinic. This is going to be an ongoing thing, from some level of financial literacy or just finance literacy, in general. Thinking about things business wise. Again, the total addressable market being a good example. Overall business resilience, technical integration into your operations, and we are hopefully looking to start between July and August 2024. And there's going to be this skill sharing and resource sharing. And I think that this is going to be a fascinating way in which we have community driven, thanks to the BBA and the platform that they have actually put together, to be able to have this community driven um, technical support, right? So yes, more information on that coming on. So what are the tips for a successful application? Be clear and concise in your application. Concise in this case doesn't mean short, right? Because there's going to be a minimum word count. Concise in this case means, although you have a minimum word count, essentially no word should be wasted, right? It shouldn't feel redundant, right? Listening to 150 words of things, right? But I know that you guys have so many thoughts that it should be easy for you to actually easy fill 150 or 200 word parts of the application and just be able to make it as concise as possible. Um, of course, highlight technical innovation and market potential, right? Technical innovation could be about what you are selling, the products, the service, or it could be about what you're doing from an integration perspective. In this case, right? But of course, technical integration is key. The market potential, how many people can it reach? What is your total addressable market, right? There's another phrase, market potential is another phrase to define that. Demonstrate strong financial planning, and that is a use of funds, right? It will be very important. It is a very important skill to have. And engage actively in that is in the prep webinars or some of the content that we have sent over, as well as the webinar sessions and then the strategy sessions. Um, Next week, we would not be able to answer questions about the application. We would only refer you to the website unless we get enough questions and then we say, okay, maybe there's something that we needed to add. So let us make sure that we go out there that isn't added. But we're not going to be having direct feedback, right? It will only be if we believe that we are seeing a whole set of questions that we were not able to answer at the onset, we will just update the front. But we're not going to be under any obligation to actually reach out. So please do keep that in mind. This is competitive, and but you have enough resources to help, right? So join us for Noire Expose 2024. I think we've stated some of the benefits of actually participating in this. It's not just the pitch awards, it is also what happens after the fact, and a whole lot more to come, right? You are encouraged to apply and participate in the webinars and competition. Contact hi@noireexpose.com for further, that is for further inquiries. There's a good chance that we might not reply, especially as it's the application week, especially if it also pertains to the application. But we would be able to at least see what everyone is saying. And then if we need to send out an email or change something on the website or maybe, record a video, then we will do absolutely that. Right. So I've said a lot and I appreciate you guys being a part of this journey. And it has been fascinating to actually get your feedback. But I would like to open it up to some questions to have this QA session. So, any thoughts, any feedback, any comments, or was that all perfectly clear?
Chizzy, I thought this was an excellent presentation. It was
Yes, sir.
right to the point. It laid out all of the elements that's important to help you understand the direction. So when the judges make these judgments, they're going to use these criteria that you just set out. And does your presentation match it? But I think one of the things that's most important to say, Chizzy, when we talk about the use of funds, because this is based on state and federal money, the grant cannot be used to pay back debts. So
Yes.
you have to go forward with some money. You can't say, "Oh, I need 15. I owe the landlord for three. I haven't paid them in 3 months, or I owe the banker." You cannot use the money for this because this is based on growth. And we, as BBA, which is one of the funders, if you will, for this project, it's not such that going backwards not help you go forward. So you have to take care of your own requirements. And that's why the use of funds is a very important document. And you had raised the question because you basically said, I need to buy X, Y, and Z, and it'll be for A, B, and C. And here's what it costs. I mean, no one's holding you to the dollar, but just gives us an idea of how you, and I like what Chizzy had said, that he wants you to do it at the 3 different levels. And that's something we didn't, even I had not thought about that, Chizzy. I like that. If you got 35, here's how you would use it. Because before we would just said, here's an application, you say what you want. And basically, if you get less, you would also say, in the event I do not get what I thought I would get, here's how I would use my money. Does that help at all? And Chizzy, I didn't mean to be stealing your thunder because you were
Oh,
so
no,
on
you
with this
are on
presentation.
point.
I just thought it was
Please go ahead.
important to add it. Huh?
Oh, yes, you
Yes,
are on point with that, and everything said is needed. Please go ahead. And please, does anyone have any comments and questions? But thank you so much, Jim. Yes.
yes, Jim. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Like, what was specifically where do you want us to allocate the funds at? So that's what I was saying. Like, grant or whatever. Do you want us to? Is it okay to use it that way? So
I
that's what
understand.
I was thinking as far as a business perspective. It's like, where do we put, where should we allocate the monies? How should we allocate the monies? How should we show it on the paper at the presentation? Like, if we're going to move forward with a plan, say we won last year on the presentation, and we allocated the funds, that funds did work. Then we needed more funds, or we didn't have enough funds. So we could use those funds again. I mean, if we did win, we could use those funds to proceed to the next stage of our business. So that's what I was asking. So that was perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm glad.
That's what
Thank
I
you very
needed.
much, Jim.
And remember, Burnett, the funds are not for Chizzy or for the Noir, it's for you. So it's not how we want to use it, it's how you want to use it. I think that's the most
Exactly.
important thing.
Yes, yes, and I second that completely. But thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate when that is when things just solve themselves out. And so this is actually phenomenal to see. Any comments, thoughts, questions? We will follow up with all this, but just want to make sure that we get as much as possible. Hey, how's it going? So any thoughts, questions? Are we good? It seems that we're all good. I, I am hearing a yes from Burnett. Uh, Absolutely, Kobe. We appreciate it, and I'll be following up with you next week. Thank you very much, Rochelle. It seems that we're all good. Are you?
Can I?
Yes, we're all good. Thank you so much, and thank
Yes,
you for
ma'am.
the clarification from, because I
Absolutely.
feel like I was one of the few that applied last year,
Uh huh. Uh
and
huh.
it was just all confusion. So I'm glad that this year you guys have like the webinars and stuff to just
Yes,
like
ma'am.
give us a heads up of what's what we can do to improve from last year. So thank you.
Absolutely. You're
So
absolutely welcome.
one more small administrative
Yes.
point. Last year, it's important that everyone use the their business name that relates to the bank, because on some of the applications when we went to give the money out, they had used one name, and we sent the check was written, because it's an e-check that you receive. It was written to that particular email, and that didn't work. So that meant we had to go back and redo and go back and
Uh,
contact you and say, hey, give us the right name, because we don't want to do it because that's not the most effective use of our time. So we need to get the right name and make sure that name relates to your account, so that when you win, not that if, but when you win, you can say when the money comes, you can say, hey, and not us searching around for 2 weeks trying to find out who to send the check to.
well said. Well said. Absolutely. Please make it as easy as possible. This is why we have the CT registration thing. And maybe we might even go further with actually seeing if the registered information can be found on the online business search, right? Because we want to make sure that some of the issues that we had last year, we don't have this year, so that operationally this makes it easy for everyone. And like, this makes it so much more possible for us to keep doing this, right? So absolutely, thank you so much, Jim. I think that was on point. So, but besides that, are we good? C'est la vie. Are we fine? I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Have a great day. And
One more
okay,
question.
please.
One more question. I am going to send you a correct spelling of my name, because this one is just for business here. But yeah, I just got what James was Mr. Nicholas was talking about. So yeah, I'm gonna give you the right name on mine, so it won't be no problem.
Yeah,
Because I
and guys,
forgot my bank information. My bank information is different from what I use here. So yeah,
yeah,
I
I,
get
I was just mentioning that I spelled Chizzy's name wrong all the
Absolutely,
time.
definitely. But
Thanks, guys.
no issue at all. Have a great day, guys. We will
Bye
talk
bye.
shortly.